Okay, so we're live. We'll be able to see when people come, and then there'll be a chat. So I usually just write like hi. So I'll just type that. Just so you can kind of see where it is. Perfect.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So we're okay. So hi everyone that's watching. This is my friend Maria, and we are super happy to be with you today. You guys will join as you will, but please feel free to use the chat because we can see you typing to us. And today we're going to talk about how to get started doing a craft show. So hopefully you guys are interested in that topic. We are very interested in it. So yes. So I think we have one person watching so far, which is great.
Okay, that's great. Oh, hi, Karen. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's 2 o'clock in the morning where Karen is.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, Karen. So glad to see you. Very good.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
And baby girl 1965.
Very cool. Hello, baby girl. Good to see you. Hello. Very cool.
This is really exciting, Shemi, because this is, oh yeah, Karen says it's very early.
Absolutely, Karen. You're a trooper.
She is. So Shemi,
yes.
This is pretty exciting for me because this is the first, two firsts for me today, a live stream and a craft show. But I somehow think this is your fault. I don't know. I'm kind of taking inspiration from you, I think.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to be an inspiration.
Yeah, really,
I'm glad to help.
We got a couple more people joining. That's great.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Alrighty. Well, I think we'll get started.
Yep.
Okay, so we're just going to kind of with the basics. Okay. So.
Yeah. So Shemi, you know, one of the things that I wanted to know about when we, as we were talking about getting started, is how you came to us with this craft show idea. But how do people find out about craft shows? How do they find out where they're at or in their areas?
Well, the first kind of tool that I use is the internet. There's this really cool website called Arts and Crafts USA, but you can look up all the craft shows that are going on in your area. And what it does is people that have craft shows going on, like all sorts of craft shows, big and small, they can go there and they can put them in, and then you can search for them, and it gives you all this great information. I love it because it's free. There is another site too called Festival Net, and that one costs money. So they give you kind of basic details, but it costs a lot of money. You have to be a member. But this other site, which is in the description below in the video, it's totally free, and you go through it, and it does take some research and some time, but you go through it and you just kind of select maybe a show that you would be interested in. I mean, I went in there today and there's already like 20 shows just this weekend in Colorado, you know, that no one knows about, but they're for artists and for crafters. So yeah, so that's kind of the basic way that I find shows is through that website. And another way that you can also look for them too is your local bulletin boards. So Joanna's, they have bulletin boards, and lots of times people post craft shows there. So that's another good tool for you to utilize. Also too, surprisingly, Craigslist is pretty awesome too. You go into there, so you go to Craigslist, and we would do Denver or Colorado because that's where we're from. But and you would go to community, and then it'll say community events, and you click on that, and it gives you, and lots of people, especially small churches and I don't know, like nursing homes and that kind of stuff, they will advertise their craft shows there, and they give you pretty advanced notice of when the craft show will be. So you can go there also, and that's a great way to search and to find information on local craft shows in your area. And then another one too is word of mouth. So when you start with craft shows, you connect with people, and you're able really to kind of utilize their help, and they give you insider tips of what the good shows are and that kind of thing. So those are probably the 5 things that, the 5 ways that I find craft shows in my area. Yes.
So those are really good tips, because I never would have thought to look at someplace like Craigslist or community newsletter, something like that. So those are really great tips. From your experience, what's like usually there's like a booth fee or something like that, or something that talks about what the rules of the craft show are?
Yes. Yes, so there usually is a booth fee, and you kind of just get that from, so like the smaller shows, which are going to be like your churches, schools, nursing home, or workplaces, those usually have maybe a minimal fee, like anywhere from $10 to maybe $50. And that's kind of a good place to start, I think, if you're starting out. And then if you do like bigger shows, like conventions, specialized conventions, like maybe like yarning convention or something like that, or state fairs, or a community fair, or craft or show, or even a farmer's market, those are going to be more expensive, and those can be like anywhere from $100 to hundreds of dollars. So I would definitely start out small, and just kind of see how much you're willing to pay, because if it's your first time, you don't want to spend $300 and then you're out that amount and you don't sell anything, maybe because it just wasn't a good craft show for your crafts, so you kind of have to be careful of that. I would start out small, and that's the way I started, is out very small. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello. Hey, Rebecca. So, Shemi, the other thing is we're doing it with a couple of other ladies from our Colorado Art Collaboration Group. So we're sharing the cost. That's a good way to go too, to kind of keep the expenses low.
That's a great idea. And if you have friends that are crafty too, and I love that idea. You can split the cost of a booth rental, and it saves you some money, and it's wonderful. And you have great company too, which helps.
Yeah, you're not there all by yourself. That's the part of it I like too, is that I'm going to have some colleagues with me who can add some moral support or help out or whatever, especially to relieve, unless we need a little break or something to go to the bathroom or whatever, there's somebody who can cover for us.
Absolutely, so which is very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure so. So we're actually going to be, our craft show is going to be downtown in our city in Denver, and that is going to be kind of a fun location for us.
Absolutely. Yes, because there's lots of foot traffic, which is great, and that's an important thing that you kind of look for when you're looking at maybe doing your craft show. And and it has lots and lots of people down there, and it looks like they had a successful event last year. So those are kind of the things that you want to look for. Absolutely.
Now, Shemi, one of the other things that have to be considered is, in the one that we're doing, they're providing some things that we need, like a canopy, but we have to provide a lot of our own stuff, like tables. So how does that usually work?
So they'll usually let you know far in advance if they don't provide tables and chairs or tarps, which this show didn't. So we had to provide all that except for the tarp. I guess they wanted everything to look similar, so they provided those. But you just have to really think about that too, and think about the cost, because if you don't have folding tables or chairs, then you have to add that in to the cost of kind of doing a craft show. And that's something maybe that you can purchase. I know that chairs are really good to purchase like right after summer's over, like during Labor Day. Walmart usually has a really good sale on the ones that you just kind of fold up. So I mean, you'll become an expert finding sales.
Yeah, for sure.
And where to get merch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was able to buy, I see a lot of canopies, because people buy them because they're like the latest thing, and they never use them. So a lot of people put them in yard sales. So, I mean, I come across two this past month, but I already have one. I paid $25 for it, and it works great. So definitely look around. I mean, at thrift stores, you never know what you're going to find. At yard sales, you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive things. But for indoor craft shows, for the most part, they're going to provide tables and chairs, so you don't have to worry about that, which is something too that you need to calculate when you're thinking about entering into a craft show. So that's really a lot to be thinking about, because you don't, like for me,
I want to keep the investment low, right? Because it's my first craft show. So I don't want to go all in with a whole bunch of cash and not really know how it's going to work out for me. So it's
Absolutely.
good to find things on sale or friends that you might could borrow from. But you have to be really sure you know, it sounds like, exactly what you have to bring for your setup.
That's right. That's very important. Absolutely. And I just want to talk about just a few things, like when you're considering a show, just some insider kind of tips that I do is you want to see how much is the entry fee, which Maria talked about. And then you also want to see how many vendors will participate in the show. I like when there's lots of different vendors and it's kind of a bigger show, because I think you get more traffic and more interest, and you got to think they're advertising to their, their circle. And if you have 50 people doing that, then just from, you inviting your friends, they're going to come and want to be a part of the show. And then another thing too, is that I consider the price point of the items sold. So I don't want to be selling, $200 items and it's a community, craft show, and everything, nothing's priced over $10. You just don't want to do that. So you need to kind of see if you can research like how much the vendors charge for their things. And then another thing too is how much traffic does the event get? So are people coming to the show, right? Because if people aren't coming, then you're not going to make sales. So that's pretty important too. And then also too, another great tip is see if the show has a Facebook page of past events, of past craft shows or events that they've had. And you can get a lot of information just by looking at people's tables and seeing kind of the foot traffic. And maybe you can contact some of the vendors. I do that a lot. The people that are also participating in the craft show. Yes. And then you want to check out customer reviews too, because they'll tell you this was a really good craft show. There was lots of people, or, I found lots of great stuff. And those are things that you definitely need to consider, when you're looking at which show to be a part of and which one not to be. So, yes.
Yeah. Those are really good tips. I guess the Facebook page is a great idea to go see what their past events look like. Shemi, when they talk about their fair, do they say the kinds of crafts and arts that they're accepting, or how do you know what other people are going to be showing at the, are they all jewelry makers or all sort of like painters, or how do you know?
Well, it depends kind of on the show, and they'll tell you that when you enter the show. So they do have specialized like craft shows where it's like just jewelry making or just that, but they'll tell you kind of what kind of products that they're accepting. But another thing too is that you want to get really close to the coordinator of the event. So I totally ask them, like, how many vendors do you have? What are the price points, of things that people buy, because they have all that information. Your coordinator of the event, the person that's in charge and organizing it, they are a wealth of information. So you definitely want to utilize that resource. And I don't think a lot of people do that, but don't be afraid to ask questions. Call them up and ask them, like, hey, this is my first time, or I just want to know, how this works, what kind of different vendors you have, what kind of products they make, what are the price ranges. Just go for it and ask lots of questions. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great question.
That's really helpful to get sort of interview the coordinator and stuff like that to see what they, what their show is all about. I want to go to the audience just for a minute because we had a couple more people join Shemi. We've got Kim from Kim's Nifty Crafts 41 and Josie and Eva Lovey Arts and Rebecca and Sunny Day. So do you guys, if you guys have any questions, just put those in the chat too. Otherwise, I'm just going to try to suck as much out of Shemi as I can. But if you guys have any specific questions, that would be, we don't want to miss out on getting your questions.
No, we don't. Yes.
So Shemi, it sounds like you do quite a lot of research. Now you are pretty familiar with the shows in our area because you do a lot of shows, right? How many shows a year do you usually end up doing?
I usually average about 15 shows a year. My busy
Wow.
seasons are usually for Christmas. Usually I do the most shows during Christmas. I do some in the summer, but I'm very selective about the ones that I do in the summer. But Christmas is definitely my busy time, but I do about 15.
Wow,
Yes.
that's a lot. That's a lot of shows.
It is a lot.
That-
It is a lot. Yes.
yeah.
Really enjoyable. You can make a pretty good income, if you kind of know what you're doing and you kind of know which shows to be a part of and which ones not to be and the right questions to ask. So, yeah. So, and
Mhm.
it's a lot of fun. I love meeting people, and it's just amazing to interact and to see how many talented people there are that make lots of great stuff. So, yes.
Yeah. It's it's a good way to meet other artists though too, I think, in the area, right? That you strike up a friendship with, or you have something in common in terms of the arts that you create.
Absolutely. It's a great way to do that, of course. And it's great because, like, art people are very willing to share, information with you. I mean, so a lot of the craft shows that I find out about, they'll tell me, that one is no good, or they'll tell me this one is great. Like, we have a nursing home here. Well, actually, it's like a retirement community called Windsor Gardens, and I never knew that they had a show, but they do 2 shows 2 times a year, and it's wonderful. They have so much foot traffic. There's a lot of vendors, and I was just being nice to the lady next to me. She had to go to the bathroom, and then we started talking, and I found out about that show, and I've been doing it for a couple of years, and it's been really good. It's been a great resource, for income for me. So
Oh
definitely you
wow.
want to find, other artists that are next to you and go
Yeah.
around and look at stuff and, be genuine, but definitely interact with them. They're a great resource. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a couple of questions in the chat. I'm gonna start with one of them from Lisa about where do you find out about the craft shows in your area, because you did cover some items. Are you going to post any of those notes? Are we going to post show notes then, Shemi, too? That might be
Absolutely.
helpful. Okay, but you want to run down
Absolutely.
that list because you had a
Sure.
fantastic list of where to look for things.
Absolutely. So Lisa, online, there is a link in the video below, in the description below, that will take you to a website that you can find lots of shows in your area. It goes by state, and you just click on your state and it lists all of them, and it goes up all the way to December. And then also bulletin boards, local bulletin boards that you have, Craigslist and their community. You just go to your state or country of Craigslist, and then you hit community, and then you'll see people that post about craft shows and that kind of thing. And then community newspapers are also a great place to find about what's going on and events that are coming up. And then word of mouth, just talking to other vendors. If you go to a show, or even your friends that do craft shows, you can talk to them too. So very quickly.
That's a great, I
Those
mean,
are
that's a great list. And I think when we put our notes together, people will be able to go out and look at that because those are great, great tips on where to look for ideas. Rebecca and Grace are sort of talking about the kinds of things to sell at the show. What are bestsellers? And Shemi, are you doing more crochet necklaces? So Shemi, how about we talk about how do you know, how do you decide what your inventory is going to be?
So I make things that I'm passionate about. I think that that's really the most important thing, because, if you just make stuff because you think that it will sell, but you're not really passionate about it, or you really don't like it, then I don't think that's really going to connect with your customer. And then when people come up to you, especially at craft shows, they want to hear about how you created something. So I think they can definitely tell if you're not passionate about it. If you're just like, well, I made these necklaces because I saw that everyone else was making them, so that's just what I made. So I think that's the first thing, is only make things that you're passionate about making. And another way too that I find things is also by going onto Etsy. Etsy is a really great resource, and Pinterest, and just kind of going through and just kind of looking at things that touch you, that you feel inspired by, and tweak it and make it your own. But definitely just basically looking at things, and being inspired. That's how I come up with the products that I include in my craft show. So definitely,
Okay.
yes.
And are you going to do more crochet necklaces?
I am going to do more crochet necklaces, Grace. I love making those, so I'm definitely going to do more.
Yeah. I'll have to see how those sell also, because I really like those crochet necklaces myself. And then Baby Girl 1965 just reacted to how many shows you do. That's a lot of shows, Shemi.
It is a lot.
15. It is a lot.
It is a lot. It is exhausting.
Yeah, it is, because you know what? I would think I would find it a little bit exhausting just because of the tear down and the setup and all that. But you must be either enjoying it or it's really a good business for you to do that many shows. So
it's both. Yes, you're totally right. Absolutely. Yeah, and
that's great.
Hard work is required for anything that you do. So, as you know, so yes.
Yeah. So Kelly White's joined, and Kelly was talking about pricing items. I think were you wanting to talk about, before we head into pricing, did you want to talk about like taking payments at the show, or how did you want to?
Yeah, maybe let's talk about that first, and then we'll definitely come to how to price. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. So, how I take payment for the products that I sell is I love to use one of these portable, and Maria has one too that she's going to show you. This is a new one that I just found out about. It's called EMS, and it's a credit card reader. So this is what they look like, just like this. And you just plug them into your phone or to your tablet, just like that. And then it pulls up an app, or you download the app, and then someone will purchase something, and then you just take the credit card and you swipe it. And then it goes directly into your bank account.
And how is that different than, because like I have the, now for the rest of you guys, I have never done a craft show. So Shemi told me about the PayPal one, right? I don't know if you guys, can you see that okay? So this is my PayPal one. This is PayPal. So I got this one. I haven't even opened it, as you can see. I have no idea how to use it. I'm going to have to figure this out before I go to the fair, Shemi. Otherwise, I'll be fumbling like this in front of customers. But at any rate, it's the PayPal one or the Square, and that's right? The one that, you have,
and there's the Square too. I do, and primarily I use the Pay Here, just because the money goes right into your PayPal account, and then you can transfer it to your bank account, and you can use the money right away. Now with the Square and with this one, you have to wait, like a day or two for the funds to be verified, and then you have to wait for your bank to approve it, and it can take maybe a week for the funds to be available. So that's why I love the Pay Here. It's super simple. It goes directly into your account. Within a couple hours, you can use that money for whatever you want, and you can even transfer it into your bank. And it's super simple to use. So when you get the little reader, which Maria showed you,
and I
think it's $10 now. And that's a Square, yes.
I don't know. I thought it was free actually, but I might be mistaken about that.
Okay.
I don't remember now.
Yes, I think you're right. So I think the first time you buy the Pay Here, which is the PayPal one, it's free. If you want additional readers, then it's $10 additionally for every reader that you want. But they send it to you in the mail, and then you go to the Google Play Store, or and you download an app called Pay Here, and then it takes you through how to set it up. Basically, you just stick the reader in to the place where you put your headphones, like I showed you before, and it pulls everything up, and then you just swipe the card. You have the customer sign, and it goes right into your bank account, and they get a receipt too, which is awesome. So that's what I love. I love the Pay Here. That's what I use. I do have a Square, and then I also have this one, but I'll definitely use my Pay Here. Yes.
So how is that other one? How is that that one that you showed us? Is it EMS? Is it the same kind of thing then?
It's the same as the Square. It's the same as the Square. The Square takes a small percentage of your sales. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Because there's transaction fees. Yeah, it's small transaction fee.
Absolutely. Okay. And PayPal's are definitely more cheaper, so they don't charge you as much as the Square or EMS. So that's something to consider too.
So you have options. You have options on how to do it. Now, I decided to use the Pay Here one because I'm already set up on PayPal, and I love PayPal, so I use that all the time. So I thought this would be work.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that. So you definitely need one of those readers because most people use their credit cards. They don't have cash. But I do take at least $100 in cash with me. Now, how I break it up is I usually do 40 in fives, I do 20 in ones, and then I do 4 in tens. And that's kind of the way that I break up my money denominations. And I usually just take 100. Maybe if it's a bigger show, I'll take 200, but I don't really take 20s or anything like that, or coins. I don't deal with coins. It's just kind of a pain in the neck. I just deal with straight cash or the credit card. And I think that just makes it easier. And you definitely want to bring a calculator too, so you can add everything up.
Okay, good. All right. So, that's really good. So I think if I can get the thing out of the package, I'll be all set up to use my Pay Here.
You will. Absolutely.
So take some cash, you said, but mostly people are going to use credit cards, so you should have some way to swipe a credit card.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
So you definitely should. Back in around the pricing and the inventory.
Okay.
Oh, Lisa asked about, Lisa Conway, since we're on taking payments, what about taxes? And that's probably leads into pricing too.
Absolutely. So for taxes, you can decide how you want to do it. Either you can configure it into the price of your item, which is what I usually do, or you can just add it on the customer side. So you can, if something's $30, then you'll figure out kind of what your tax rate is, how much state taxes you have to collect, and you'll just tack it on to the price. And you can also put that into the app for the Pay Here. I know that one that you can do that. So you can already make it so that the tax is added on when you ring them up. So that's a great feature, and you can do that before you go to the craft show. But that's a really great
So you set up like a profile or something, I think. Is it something like that where you, okay.
That's what you do. And then it takes the taxes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. But you have to account for the taxes somehow, right? So, because we have to have a license, right? We have to have a tax license, a sales tax license for us in Colorado.
You do,
I think most places.
You do in Colorado, yes, absolutely. Yes, you do. Or if it's like they kind of have, like if it's a certain amount, which I'm not, you kind of have to look that up at the state, at your tax bureau, your Department of Revenue, and see kind of what the parameters are, because every state is different. But yeah, just kind of look that up. If you make less than so much, then they usually don't bother you, or you don't have to accept, you don't have to take taxes for some states. And in some states, no matter what, like Colorado, you have to take taxes. So yeah. So that's something that you definitely have to check out and make sure that you pay them their money. That's super important.
Yes.
I do that after the show. I just go ahead and write a check to the Department of Revenue and get that out of the way. So yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, I really think that, be sure, like Shemi says, that you're researching your tax, whatever your tax requirements are in your area. Because I remember when I first set up my business, I had to file quarterly tax returns, and I missed a few because I was making this much money. You know how much that is? That's a zero. I was making $0, so I didn't realize I needed to file that return. And they will come and let you know that you need to file the return anyway. So check out the requirements for your state. Make sure you're doing it right, because they'll come and discuss that matter with you sharply.
Absolutely. They will. Yes, thank you, Lisa, for that question. I didn't even think about that. I didn't put it in my notes. That was a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Perfect.
Okay, so we had questions around pricing, Shemi.
Yes. Okay, so we can discuss pricing. So how I price my items, you can do it 2 ways is how I do it. So you can use a pricing formula, which is the cost of supplies plus labor, and then you do 5 to 10% 10 to 15% in overhead. So that's kind of like your packaging, that kind of thing. And then, so those are the three that you would add together. And then after you get that number, which is your total cost, you are going to multiply that by 2, and that gives you a wholesale price. So that's if someone wants to buy, you know, some of your fabulous quilts or something for wholesale to put in their shop, that's the price that you would give them. But for retail, you do your wholesale price times 2, and that'll give you your retail price. And I will put that, like as Maria said, we will put that down below in the notes, so you guys can definitely see that. I think you have to kind of see the formula. Absolutely. And the only issue with this, though, the pricing formula, is sometimes it's not realistic. Like if I spend 2 hours like painting a canvas, you know, that, and I charge, you know, $50 for my time, that's like $100 just for what it took me to make the canvas. And then if I add in, you know, the cost of the supplies and all that stuff, I mean, that's just kind of a ridiculous price for, you know, an 8x10 canvas. I mean, people aren't going to pay $200 for like a little canvas, you know, when they can get one for $45. So you have to be kind of smart about the way that you price things too. Like don't just stick to this formula and lose sales because your prices are just crazy and people are like, okay, like that may be beautiful, but I'm not going to pay that. So, and most of the time you're not going to make back your time. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. So that's kind of, so I really don't use the pricing formula. I will put it below if that's the way that you want to do it. I do a lot of just competitive research. So I kind of see what other people are selling similar products for. So I go on to Etsy, or I look at local craft shows if someone's selling earrings, and I kind of see what the price ranges are and what kind of materials they're using. And then I know that, hey, that's probably what I can get for this pair of earrings. So that's another thing too, when you're creating things, maybe it's not the best idea, you know, to put tons and tons of time into it. If you're going to do this as a business, you know, you need to be smart about the things that you're creating, because you may not make back the money that you know you spent making them. And there was this one lady at this craft show that I went to, and she just loved creating jewelry with precious stones. So she didn't care. Like she sold her stuff for like, you got earrings, bracelets, and a necklace for $20, and it was like amethyst stones, you know. But she just loved the process of creating. So she just wanted to make back kind of the cost that it took for her to make the products, and she just really enjoyed jewelry making, and she had a great income. She wasn't at the craft show to make any money really, or to make a profit. So that was okay for her, you know, but I was in a different situation. So you kind of have to weigh that too.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
So we got some questions. Lisa asked about, well, how do you know what your labor cost is? And you've just said, you know, do you track actually your labor, Shemi, when you're making things for a craft show? Do you actually track it closely, or how do you do that?
Well, I don't do that, but you totally can. I did it when I first started out. So like I would time, like it takes me 15 minutes to make a crocheted necklace. And I would say, okay, well, I want to make $10 an hour. Okay. So I would divide that by 15 minutes, you know, and that would give me a number. And then that was the number that was the labor that I put into it. So I would add that to my overhead and my cost of supplies. And then that would give me my total cost of how much it costs me to make something. So, but in the end,
you said you're going to have to be reasonable about what you think is what pricing customers are really going to pay. And you might not make back all your costs. And you'll have to decide if that's good enough, if that's going to work for you.
Yeah, and you will definitely make back your cost of supplies. So make sure that you at least figure out that you're making back whatever you spent on supplies. Now, you probably will not make back your time, which is also known as labor. So maybe that was a more clear definition. Your labor is how long it takes you to make something, and that's the time that you put into it. So most of the times you're not going to make that back. I mean, you know, so yeah, at least in my experience, that's how it's been. Yes.
Yeah. So there was another question about Do you figure the taxes after and just set that aside, or how do you manage, like, keeping track?
I do. So what I do, which I think that everyone should do, is I have a clipboard and I make an inventory of everything that I make. And then as I sell things, I check them off. And as I said, I figure in my taxes before. So I know I sold 3 crocheted necklaces. So I need to take out this amount of that for taxes. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
that's how I do it. And I have just a master inventory list that I take with me, so that I am in control. I know what is selling, what is not, and I know how much taxes to collect and how much profits I made too. So I take that with me. That's kind of like my lifeline. It's very important that you have a price list. Yes, and an inventory list too. Absolutely.
Okay, so
Yes.
an inventory list that breaks out your costs and the taxes associated with each one, and then
Yes.
You can just kind of check off how much you've sold during the show.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. All right,
Yes.
so we talked about finding out about craft shows and taking payments and pricing. How much? There was a question here, and I actually had a similar question. How do you know how much stuff to bring? Like, how much inventory should you bring? I mean, are you just bringing all, I don't know. Well, first of all, I'm not going to have to worry about it because I'm bringing what I got, so it's not like overwhelming numbers of stuff, but it's a good question. How much should you bring?
That's a great question. Absolutely. So I think this kind of goes back to how you create. So what I do is, like, when I create like something, like let's say that I'm making bracelets, I make sari bracelets, right? So I will create I will create those in one setting. Okay. So I'll create maybe 10 of them. And I usually take between 5 and 10 of every item that I'm selling. Okay, because I like to have a lot of variety. So that's the way that I kind of create. So in the next setting, I'll just do maybe decoupage candle holders, and I'll just make a ton of those in one setting, and then those are ready to go. And then maybe I'll do bath salts the next day, and I'll make a ton of those, and then I'll be ready to go. So I think just, bottom line, maybe like 5 to 10 items in every category, or in how many ever things that you're making, is probably a good place to start. So I would make 10 bath salts, 10 candle holders, 10 bracelets, as just as a way to have a good variety for people to look at. And that's important too, is that you do not want your booth to be like scarce, where you just have a couple of things and you don't have anything for people really to look at and to enjoy. So like Maria said before, that would be a good time for you to hook up with kind of a friend if you don't have that much inventory, and kind of invite them to go to your craft show. But it's definitely important to have something interesting for people to look at. So you don't want to have, a little bit of stuff on your table. It just doesn't look very good, and it doesn't attract people, is what I'm trying to say. So
yes, that's what I really like about having a group. And Pam's on the call with us. Pete Tonino is going to be at the show with us. So Pam, hi Pam. And it's really going to be great to have 4 different artists there, because like you said, they'll fill out, between us all, we'll fill out the booth, and have interesting stuff to look at. It's not like reliant on one person to fill it all up. So that's really good.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yep.
So yes, so that was a great question. Absolutely. And that's very...
There's another question about, do you have any ideas on what kinds of things sell best or have the best profit margin from your experience?
So let's see. From my experience, I know jewelry does really well, but you kind of, like, as far as earrings and bracelets and that kind of things, necklaces are kind of hard because you have to use a lot more beads to make them. But people love earrings and jewelry, so that is a good seller normally. Also too, so I always make money with my jewelry. That's never a problem. And then also too, kind of things that people like would use around their house, and you kind of want to know who your customer is. So I know that my customer is usually a woman between like the ages 30 to 60. That's kind of the people that I want to target. That's my target audience. So I kind of make things that I know would be interesting to them. And you can find those things by looking on Pinterest boards of people that are in that range. I mean, you know, like maybe the clothespins with the magnets, that's pretty popular and it's super simple to make. And you make a good profit from that because you can get the clothespins at the dollar store and you get the magnets at the dollar store, and it's just paper, and you know, you can make those, or maybe even coasters. And those are things that women would buy to use in their house, you know, that's useful, that is beautiful, but it also useful too. And that's kind of how I think of it. Kind of is this, how can this person use this, you know, is it something that they can incorporate in their daily life and find true value using? So those are kind of the things that I make. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so, good. Oh, Diana just dropped in. Hi, Diana.
Hi, Diana. Good to have you. Diana makes the most beautiful soaps.
Ooh,
that she should sell.
No, Diana. Shemi's put you on notice that you should sell those soaps.
Absolutely.
So, Shemi, one of the other kinds of big questions that I had, and I know you and I talked a little bit about this, is we talked about, you know, bringing enough money and being ready to take payments, but what other kinds of things you need to take to the craft show? Like, you know, what's that package of stuff that I should be planning to take, or any of us who are going to the show? What do we need?
Absolutely. So I'll kind of list them off. I kind of made a list for you guys. So personal things that you want to take to the craft show are scissors, tapes, and tons of extra pins. You also want to take straight pins and an emergency art kit. So let's say you make jewelry and, like, you know, it falls apart, a bracelet falls apart. You want to have pliers and beads so that you can repair that. Another thing too is tissue, makeup, lip balm. You want to have sunscreen, sunglasses, a hat if the fair is outdoors, jacket, and you want to have water and snacks. And you also want to have your phone and an extra charger too. So those are kind of the personal things that I always bring to every craft show. And I just put those, you know, in a little tote bag that you can get from King Soopers or IKEA. And I just have that with me, just right at my feet. But it's good to just have that stuff. Maybe bring a little cash for lunch that's separate from your change if you have an opportunity to leave. But those are the things that you definitely need to bring that are personal to you. And then also the bare necessities kind of what you need to bring when you're doing a craft show is you want to bring chairs and table. You want to bring tablecloths, coverings, and boxes to add height and interest. And we're going to talk about displays in the next show that we're doing. And then you want to bring a tent or a canopy and bricks if it's required. If it's not provided, you want to bring stands and fixtures for displaying your work. You want to bring a cash box, but I usually don't bring a cash box. I bring an apron to put my money in, or a fanny pack, because a cash box, it's really easy for someone to walk off with, and it just gives you more control to have your money near you. And if you're waiting on a whole bunch of people, you know, and it's really busy, it just gives you more control of your money. So I always have an apron with me. So that's definitely important. A calculator, because
before you move on, I posted a link to one of your videos where you showed how to make a craft show apron. The little apron, right? So everyone, you should check that out, because if you want to make your own, and it would be fun kind of art project also.
Absolutely. And it's just one of those. Have you guys seen those tool aprons from Lowe's? No, from Home Depot. I think Lowe's has them too, but Home Depot. Yeah, and you can just stick your money in there. It's great. I just painted it, and it's awesome. It works awesome. So you just tie it around your waist.
Yeah, so
it does. And that's really simple. And then you want to bring a calculator and a stack of business cards and order forms in case someone wants to order your work. You know, if they want to order.
Yeah.
And signs for your stall. So you should make a sign of your name So whatever your name is, and that just kind of makes you look more professional. So I recommend, and it doesn't have to be anything expensive. It can be one that you make yourself. So you want to have price tags or some type of way that you're going to price your products. You want to have bags, wrapping paper, and packaging for purchases. So bubble wrap if you're selling something that's glass, that kind of thing. You want to make sure that you have paper and pen for a mailing list sign up. And that's important, is you want to get email from people if they're really interested in your work. So that's great.
That's
because they're future customers. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
it's a good idea.
Camera to take pictures, or you can use your phone, and you always want to take pictures of your stall, for your website, for your Facebook, for, you can take a little video for your YouTube channel, and you want to take, and if you want to, which I think is really cool, which I like to do, is you can also take art supplies to maybe do a project in front of everyone. So maybe if you're selling primarily canvases, you can maybe paint a canvas, and it draws people in to your booth. So you always kind of want to be thinking of things like that. Like if you're making jewelry, automatically, just because you're doing something, people are going to come up to you and be interested and ask you questions and spend a little bit more time in your booth and, want to purchase things from you. So I always like to bring a project. You want to bring your credit card processor. You want to bring an inventory list and trash bags or a tarp to cover up in case you're outside and it rains or something. Yeah. And then a phone and a backup charger. So those are kind of my essentials of what I take with me when I do craft shows. So yes.
Well, that is a really good list because I had been wondering about all the things that were necessary to take and be prepared for. Some of the stuff you mentioned I hadn't considered, like, tools, if like I do jewelry making. So I hadn't thought about bringing a set of tools with me. That's something that we should,
yes.
that I would definitely now have to add to my kit. And, so that's a really good list,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Marie joined a little bit late, and she was just asking about the credit cards as payments. So we did talk about that. We talked about Square and Pay Here, and then the EMS one that you mentioned, Shemi. So those will be on the recording to go look at those items.
They will. And you can look back, Marie, because we discuss it in detail and definitely get all that information. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
Very good.
So, any other questions from anyone in the audience there that you guys have that you want to cover with Shemi?
Let's see. I think there was one that I saw before, but I kind of lost track. Let's see. Oh, from Deborah. Sometimes things that you're talking about don't sell. In my case, it's totally hand-sewn quilts. I also do fashion dolls. Oh, yeah, Deborah, you're right. Sometimes things that you are passionate about don't sell. But if you want, maybe you can find kind of a variation of them. So let's see. How can I explain this? So I love to make, I really love to make lanterns, right? But, you would have to use metal and all this stuff. So something that I came up with is just to take a decoupage wine bottle and add LED lights to it. And it makes a beautiful lantern. And it's a cheaper kind of variation of something that I love to make in general. So does that make sense? So maybe you can find something that you can make that's that people would be interested in. You can kind of think of a new way to kind of design it that makes people interested in it, and try to sell that. But that way it's still something that you're passionate about, but it's just something maybe that people need to see in a different light. Like for quilting, maybe it's making like quilted table runners, so you're still doing the art of quilting, but it's different. Yes. So hopefully that answers your question.
Reinterpret or reimagine something that you love making that you think is going to be more saleable or
Absolutely. Yes. Or napkins, you could make quilted napkins maybe, and it's on a smaller scale, but it's something practical that someone could buy. And yeah, Maria, you're right to reimagine it. Absolutely.
So Shemi, back on the inventory thing, what happens if you are so lucky to sell out of everything early? What do you do then? I mean, do you stay there for the rest of the day, or do you pack up and go home? What do you do?
I would probably just pack up and go home.
And get out while the getting's good.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think I would definitely pack up and go home.
We all hope for that. I mean,
We do, and that's a great problem to have, but that would be great. That's why you and I don't, like when I have an item, I usually hold back one thing to still have as to display in case someone wants to order it. So I bring order forms and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just have this out, and then they can look at it and maybe someone will be inspired to order it. So that's another thing that you can do too. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So did we have
someone talked, I think Kelly White said, what about copyright infringement? How do you know what's okay to use and what is not? So I don't really run into this, but I know you can with paper. I've heard this a lot. So some scrapbooking paper you cannot sell your projects with, or fabric too. So I know if you use sports fabrics, you can sell them you really can't sell them. You can give them away as gifts. So I made Bronco scarves basically, and I still kind of make them and sell them, even though I'm not supposed to do that. But on the fabric, it tells you you're not allowed to do that because the NFL basically owns that image. It's copyrighted, so you can't sell it on Etsy or anything like that, where they can find you, because they can sue you because you can't use their fabric in that way, which is really ridiculous. But yeah, I know that there's a few examples of that. So I don't know, that would probably be something that you would probably have to kind of research yourself. I'm sorry, I know for scrapbooking paper, normally if you go to their website, they'll tell you kind of if you can use it in projects to sell or
I've seen something that's called angel policies, or what their angel policies are. So I have seen on some craft sites where, or like you're saying, paper or even stamps, even rubber stamps and things like that. But they usually have a policy, and some of them are called I've heard it called angel policy, where they talk about whether you can or can't use it in your crafts and sell those crafts. But it is a research item, like you say. I think you're going to have to look for each kind of thing that you use and see if it has any kind of copyright restrictions.
That's right. Absolutely. Yes.
I wouldn't have thought of that necessarily. That's a good question. Really good question.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to talk about pricing a little bit. When you price you want to make sure that when you are at a craft show that everything is priced, because people are not going to ask you the price of your item. So if you don't have things priced, they're going to think that it's too expensive and they're not even going to bother to ask you. So make sure that you have things priced. Now you can price things individually, or what I like to do, and we'll discuss this more in the next show, is I found these little they're little wooden pieces and they have chalkboard on them, and I got these at Target. They were $1 for 12 of them, and I just glued them to paper clips, and then I can write in chalk in a chalk pen my prices, and I just clip it on whatever I'm selling. So
you have a basket or something?
That's right. If I have a basket, or I can just even set it just on something too, and that would work. Set it up against something, and that way the price is on there. But make sure that things are priced. That's kind of super important. And I know it's hard to ask people to pay, for things, but you definitely have to do that. Make sure that your stuff is priced, and make sure too that your things are not priced too low. Don't undersell your stuff. That's why it's so important to do research. Don't, if you spent $20 on something, it's going to be $40 maybe, if that's how much it's going to cost. And don't let people talk you out of your price. You have to be really strong with that, because you'll get bargain hunters, people that don't appreciate your art, and that's fine, but don't be afraid to say, no, I'm sorry, that's the price, because there is someone that will appreciate it and will pay that price. So
yeah,
so definitely.
So
important is
I want
not
to ask a question about boxes or sacks. And Rhonda, I want to make sure that I'm getting it right, but is it when you're selling your item, are you putting them in boxes or sacks? Is that the question? Sounds like it is. So Shemi, I think do you use bags or what do you use?
I usually use bags. I use bags. So that's
Like
primarily
plastic
what I use
bags or what kind
I
of bag?
do. I usually use like brown bags. Like you can get the ones at the dollar store or at or like at Hobby Lobby, and they're just the plain like sack lunch bags. That's what I use. Or I get the big pack of the ones with the handles. Kind of they look like gift bags, but just the ones that are made from like craft paper. That's usually what I use to put my merchandise in. Or
Okay.
even bags from the dollar store for my small jewelry items. I'll put those in there too. Or you could use sacks like the sachet fabric sacks. I
Mm-hmm.
forget what those are called. You
The
could use
little
those, and
organza
those would work
bags. The little organza
absolutely.
bag.
And
Yeah.
too, absolutely. But yeah, packaging is super important. You want it to be attractive, for sure. If you're going, a lot of my things I don't really package. Because I want people to like pick them up and touch them and that kind of thing. But yeah, but you can be so creative in packaging, and we'll discuss that in more detail. And I'll show you kind of my tricks and tips for how to package things affordably. So
Good,
yeah,
good.
absolutely.
Well, we're actually we're just a couple of minutes from the end of our time here, and I think you mentioned that we are going to do one more show, and it's going to focus on the displays and packaging and more around that type of setup, right?
That's right. And we'll definitely discuss that. Absolutely. In depth. Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, oh, there was a question here and I can't see it. Let's see, my computer isn't showing you the chat now. But there was a question too about which of the computer processes I prefer to use. I use the PayPal Pay Here. That's the one that I prefer to use. And we discussed that before, but I think that was a question that someone had before the chat went bonkers.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So
yes,
the pick here is the one you like the best.
that's the one that I like. And that's by PayPal. It's super easy to use.
Yeah,
Yes.
good, good. I'm looking forward to the ease of that. So we're going to do
Yes.
back again on August 9th and 6 p.m. Mountain again. And
Yes.
we're going to talk all about the displays. I'm really, really interested in this one, Shemi, because again, it's about cost, right? For me anyway. You know, how much is my display going to cost me? I want to keep it. I want it to look good, right? We're artists. We want to look good. But I wanted to keep it low. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Me too. This has been great. Thank you guys so much for all your wonderful questions. And hopefully, I think we'll have time for the next one, you know, to answer more questions. So think about them and write it down. And yes.
That's
absolutely.
Great.
Answer them. Yes.
Thanks for so much for sharing your experience with us. We really appreciate it, and we had really good questions. So thanks everybody for joining the show.
Yeah, so fun. Thank you guys so much. And I hope, you know, that we didn't overwhelm you. Going to craft shows and participating in them is such a fun thing to do. And I hope that you at least give it a try once to see if it's something that you're interested in doing it. And you definitely have all the information now to do it. So I hope you take that chance and you jump in and try it. So thank you, Maria, for this
great
idea.
I think we're all better prepared now, actually. I feel better.
That's
all right. Well, thanks everybody. And thanks, Shemi. Really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Great. And I will put my notes in the description video too. So you guys will have those.
Great. All right, good. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Good night.
For watching.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.